When most golfers look at the players on the right side of the screen, they look at great errors of golf, great ball strikers, players who are exceptional at all aspects of the game for the most part. And there are certainly great players here. You got Jones, Hogan, Nicklaus, Norman, and Tiger. I look at them a little bit differently. When I look at these five players, I don't just see five great ball strikers. I see five different distinct eras of golf instruction. And being a golf instructor, that's my primary emphasis. And so when I see that, that's the first thing that comes to mind. I look at the way that Bobby Jones swung and how it changed when Hogan came out, and when Hogan published his book. Everybody wanted to swing like Hogan. He was the premier ball striker of his day, and so everybody tried to copy Hogan and swing like him. A lot more round inside, a little bit flatter golf swing when you compare that to the next superstar that really came out and changed the face of golf instruction, which was Jack Nicklaus. So Hogan was no longer in vogue, and then everybody said, wow, well, now we've got to swing way more upright. We've got to get our arms way above our head, and we've got to have this big lateral leg drive. And then there was a whole period of golfers such as Johnny Miller and more that came out after Jack, who had this big leg drive, did a lot of damage to their hips. Unfortunately, pretty much all had hip replacement. And then Greg Norman came out, and his swing was a little bit more compact and more round, a little bit shallower arms at the top. And everybody tried to change that a little bit. And then when Tiger came out, everybody looked at Tiger's swing and said, well, this must be the way to swing. He's phenomenal. He's the best player we've ever seen. We need to copy Tiger. Now, if you think about this little 100-year span, less than 100-year span of golfers, golf instruction has literally followed them around like a lost puppy dog. Rather than saying, look, here are the facts, here are the fundamentals, the absolutes of how the golf club should be swung, how the swing should move, so on and so forth, golf instructors have followed those top players, those top ball strikers of both the professional ranks and those around them, and also things that they found that worked in their own golf swing, and taught their players that. Well, if you think about that objectively, that's a little crazy. That's just following around a fad, which is the golf instruction world is the absolute king of infomercials and fads and different swing theories that pop up and disappear all the time, because never once has anybody taken a look at the golf swing objectively and said, look, here's how the body's designed to move. Here's how the joints are designed to be aligned up for safety, for power, for efficiency, for stability. Here's the muscles that you have to create those movements, and it's black and white. And that is where the rotary swing is different. Most golf instructors have very little understanding of anatomy and kinesiology. And so what happens is that you get a perspective on the golf swing, on how to learn the golf swing, based on their personal preference or what they found works for them, or of course who the top player is of that era that person's a fan of. There are golf instructors who are great big fans of Ernie Els, and they think everybody should swing like Ernie. Well, is Ernie swinging correctly? Is he swinging fundamentally sound? Is he swinging based on how the body is designed to move, or is he at risk for injury? Is he moving inefficiently? Those types of things are very fundamental for understanding, and you can't base it just off how a top player swings. It doesn't work that way. The laws of anatomy, the fundamentals of anatomy, are black and white. The way that your body is designed to move is black and white. The muscles that you have to create certain movements, such as rotation around your spine, are black and white. You don't have other sets of muscles that you can supplement for this. And so it's really important that the golfer start to understand that we need to look at the swing objectively, because there's just been a lot, tons of misinformation, and there's no need for it. There are simple black and white fundamental answers to the golf swing, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about. So at some point, most golf instructors or most golfers, they get frustrated from hearing different tips. They go tired of random swing tips thrown at them from golf instructors or from golf magazines and all these things, golf videos, and they don't know how to decipher what's right and what's wrong. And of course, there is a right and wrong, but how does the golfer know? How does he know that if this instructor comes out and says you should move the club this way or the body this way, and this one says, no, you've got to do it this way, how does he decide on which is the right way to do it. There is a right and wrong way, but the golfer doesn't know how to decide what's right and what's wrong. So presumably there would be some sort of fundamental that could be made, the decision could be made on, i.e. that they know that the body moves this way or the club has to be this way. But when you have so many different perspectives coming out there, all you end up with is a bunch of random collection, a bucket of swing tips, if you will. And trying to discuss swing fundamentals just ends up in never-ending circular arguments that end up leaving the golfer more confused. And unfortunately, it also creates a rift within the golf instruction industry, where a line is drawn in the sand and it says, you either choose that you follow this swing theory or you follow that swing theory. And nobody wins when you do that, because nobody can determine a set of fundamentals that all players should move on based on fact rather than preference, based on medical science and anatomy rather than preference. And so unfortunately, the golfer makes a decision. He says, I am this type of golfer, or I believe in this type of golf swing, and I'm going to keep practicing that. Not knowing, not having any facts or any tools to decide whether or not that's really the best way to swing, or whether or not that's going to end up causing that person harm later in life. And that is a very, very real fact for golfers, because over 80% of the players on tour will end up missing 6 to 8 weeks during some time in their career due to a golf swing related injury. Now think about that. 4 out of every 5 players you watch play on TV each week on the PGA Tour will miss about 2 months of paying play, competitive play, where they make their living because of a golf swing related injury. Now, and their swings are 10 times more efficient than the average amateur. So there has to be some time where the golf instruction world wakes up and says, there has to be a right way and a wrong way. We don't know what it is, and we need to figure it out. And that's what the Rotary Swing did. We looked at the swing objectively and said, look, all these guys are getting hurt. There has to be a reason for it, and there has to be a way around it. And of course there is. It's just understanding basic anatomy 101 and biomechanics, how the body is designed to move, and how the brain learns new movement patterns. And that's the other fundamental piece, is that when you go and get a golf lesson, you typically are given a tip or a couple tips or something like that, and then you're left on your own to determine what exactly that tip means to you. You're left to your interpretation of, if a person tells you, a golf instructor tells you for your takeaway that I want you to turn your shoulders. Okay, well, how? How do I turn my shoulders? Do you want me to push from the left side? Do you want me to pull from the right? Do you want me to use my obliques? Do you want me to use my, the old cliche of put your left shoulder under your chin? How exactly should I move? And so, of course, you end up with, in 100 different lessons, you end up with 100 different interpretations of what turning their shoulders feels like to that golfer. And that ends up creating more problems, because now this person interprets something that you've told that golfer to do and does it to the best that he can. But maybe you're doing something, he's interpreted it, even if it's good information, which often it's not, interpreting it in such a way that's going to get him hurt. And shoulder impingements happen, back injuries happen, and all these things. So the brain has a very specific way, and you need to be very, very explicit when you tell the brain what it is that you're asking it to do. So, for instance, on the takeaway, when we want the golfers to create rotation, we get very specific and talk about how the shoulder blade moves, how the obliques fire, because those are the only muscles that you have that are designed to rotate your torso. If you're going to play golf, you need to know what they feel like to move them and to engage them. And we get extremely specific so that there's no room for gray area for you to interpret it and do it incorrectly, because the brain doesn't know right or wrong. It simply just learns a movement pattern based on whatever it is that you tell it. And so if you tell it turn and it interprets that to be that you're pushing your left shoulder, problems that's going to create for you, well, you're going to end up hurting yourself in the end and end up with an inefficient golf swing. So at the end of the day, what you have to understand is that there are fundamentals of the golf swing that are absolute, and that's what the rotary swing is all about.